Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining us. We are on lesson 4, and we are going to do a similar activity like we did last time. All right, I want you to look at this picture. Look at this picture. And what do you see in this picture? What do you see? What's happening in this picture? Do you know what type of things are in this picture, what they're called? If you do, go ahead and share that. We're going to go ahead and pause every time we see this little clip. We're going to pause and you're going to share ideas or write something or fold something or read something or listen to something. All right. Go ahead, pause and share with your group. If you're home, go ahead and talk out loud by yourself. What's going on in this picture? Super job, super job. I like this picture. This picture is very cute to me. I thought it was very nice. So here I put, the make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature. Read it with me, please. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature. One more time. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature. Can you read it out loud following my finger by yourself? Excellent. Before we go on, I do want to talk about certain things. I want this word, make-believe. Make-believe. Why don't you go ahead and tell me what you think make-believe means? Oh, I heard great answers, great answers. Probably the easiest way to think of make-believe is pretend, 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 pretend. Okay, so the make-believe, so we can tell that this little boy is pretending he's a doctor. And when we were all little, and maybe you when you were younger, maybe you would like to make believe you were something. Maybe you made believe that you were an astronaut or a doctor or maybe a bus driver. Maybe you made believe that you were a mom and dad or all you guys could have made believe anything. I know when I was little, I remember there was a famous show in the 1980s called Solid Gold. And I used to make believe I was a solid gold dancer. And I remember I'd dance around in my room and pretend, right? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put pause and I want you to share with your class or share with your group. What did you used to make believe during your playtime or in your imagination when you were younger? Fantastic. Fantastic. All kinds of cool things that you guys would make believe. It's cool to make believe, right? And so this little boy he's a make believe doctor. He's pretending that this doll is his patient, right? And so the make believe doctor took his patient's temperature. You see that there is a apostrophe right here because the temperature belongs to the patient, right? Now, when we add this apostrophe S, we say patience. It sounds a lot like this word, too. That's this patience. This patient is someone who's sick or someone who is in some type of office, a doctor's office, a dentist office, maybe a counselor's office. They are a patient. So it's a little, that's okay. So this patient means someone who like this make-believe patient right here that maybe she's sick, don't know. So patient's temperature. So remember, temperature is when you see if someone is too hot. So let's say the doctor puts the thermometer in their mouth, and if the number is too high, like 100 and something, then they have a fever. So this is one of the instruments that they use, a thermometer. I'm going to go ahead actually, and I'm going to go ahead and let me move this for a second. I'm going to write the word thermometer. You do not have to write the word thermometer, but I would like to write some of the words that are here. Thermometer. And this right here, so the thermometer is used to see if this patient has a fever, if they have a fever. And here we have another word. We have a stethoscope. stethoscope. And a stethoscope is this thing right here. And it's used to hear the heart or the lungs to make sure that they sound nice and healthy. So these are some of the things that you might find if you go to a doctor's office. You might find these if you go to a doctor's office. You do not have to write this, but I do want you to participate in this chat. We will be writing later here. So you do not have to write this down. So here, I already said that there's a thermometer and a stethoscope, but they don't have to be fancy instruments or tools like that. Why don't you go ahead and say out loud some things you would find in a doctor's office. It could be in the waiting room of the office. It could be inside where the doctor actually checks you. What are some things you might find in a doctor's office? Perfect, perfect. I heard lots of ideas, lots of great ideas. And one thing I didn't specify, but I think I heard some people saying people. So like nurses, you might find a receptionist, you might find a custodian in the doctor's office. I'm going to go ahead and put some things that came to my mind. You find pamphlets. Those are those. Oftentimes you fold it 3 times and they'll say, it gives information about maybe a certain medication or a certain disease. It's like a paper where you find different information. What else do you find in a doctor's office? I thought of a tongue depressor, basically a big fat popsicle stick. So the doctor can if the doctor, if he or she needs to look down your throat, they can go ahead and put down the tongue depressor and say ah, and you say ah, and the tongue depressor is at work. What else would you find in a doctor's office? Sometimes you would usually find some type of bed, like a mechanical bed that they put some type of paper sheet on. And so you could go up there as they check you out for whatever is ailing you, whatever is wrong. Remember, your list and my list may be different. What else might you find? Oh, in the waiting room, you might find some magazines. Sometimes they could be more for adults. Sometimes they could be more for kids. Some of these magazines are kind of cool. And sometimes in the waiting room of a doctor's office, you'll find some chairs. So people who are waiting can sit there. So there's all kinds of things you could have put. You could have put nurses, assistants, all kinds of things, right? You could find that in a doctor's office. Once again, you do not have to write this. This was just ideas. The other thing I put down here is because make-believe, in the middle of make-believe, you see this symbol. You see this symbol. This is called a hyphen. Repeat after me, hyphen. Hyphen. Say it again, hyphen. Hyphen. Sometimes people call it a dash. A dash. And if you're part of our fabulous virtual academy, that can be found next to the zero, so there are words that, because make believe means pretend. So he's the kid here, he's not really making anything, but if you put the 2 words together, it becomes kind of a new word, right? So make believe. So I picked a couple of words that also have hyphens. So for example, in English, we put hyphens between numbers. So 24, we'd have a hyphen in the middle. 35, we'd have a hyphen in the middle. 81, there'd be a hyphen in the middle. Words like sister-in-law. So sister-in-law might be someone who's married to your brother, would be your sister-in-law. Daughter-in-law would be someone who's married to your son. Father-in-law would be maybe your husband or wife's father. So that's where we use the hyphen. Because imagine if this were all one word, sister-in-law, no hyphens, it would look kind of funny. I'm going to write it without the hyphen. Sister-in-law. Well, that's a funny looking word, right? But the hyphen kind of breaks it up nicely. So it's easier to read, because we don't like this because it's too smushed up. And I want to say hi to my sister-in-law. Hey, Denise, if you're watching this, you are the best sister-in-law ever. And then I put another one, merry-go-round. Maybe you might call it a carousel, merry-go-round. You know, the horses and the music, and they go around and around. So that's another example of a hyphenated word. Why don't you repeat after me? We're going to say these hyphenated words. Make believe. 24. Sister-in-law. Merry-go-round. I'm going to go ahead and pause. If you want to add any more, raise your Zoom hand or raise your real hand if you're in a physical classroom, or just go ahead and say it out loud if you're by yourself. Excellent, excellent. All right. So now we're going to take out one piece of paper. It could be in a journal, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and fold mine. This is going to be the paper that we do upload. So I'm going to go ahead and fold mine. I'm going to go ahead and put a line down the middle. And so okay, so here we go. Okay, and now I'm also going to put a line through the top half. So I have 1, 2, 3 sections. 1, 2, 3 sections. Okay. Okay, so here, okay, you guys already know, I'm going to actually start here at the bottom. So once again, we're going to rewrite the original sentence. So let's go ahead and write the original sentence. I'm going to write it first. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature. I want you to go ahead and copy that original sentence. Don't forget the capital. Don't forget the period. Excellent. Now, before I have you rewrite it with more details, I'm going to put some lines here, but don't do that yet. You could do the lines, but don't rewrite it yet, because I want to focus on 2 different ways we could rewrite this using more details to make it a little bit better. Okay, we can do what we did last time. We could go ahead and add a describing word, an adjective or an adverb, a describing word. So for example, we could make this more detailed by describing. What if we say the sick patient's temperature, the tired patient's temperature, it's not an old patient in the picture, right? Let's describe the patient, the weary patient's temperature, the uncomfortable patient's temperature, because when you're sick, you're kind of uncomfortable. Okay, there's all kinds of ways we can describe the patient, right? The young patient's temperature, right? The infant patient's temperature. What else can we do? Well, we have the make-believe doctor. Make-believe already describes the doctor, but we could add something else. The young make-believe doctor, the awesome make-believe doctor, the smart make-believe doctor, okay, took his patient's temperature. How about took his patient's high temperature, hot temperature, right? That's one. We could use describing words. So you could use one of the examples I just mentioned, or you could make your own. Why don't you go ahead and list 3 describing words and write them down. Perfect. Now, why don't you go ahead and share your 3 words with other people in the group or class or a partner or out loud by yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on the doctor. So I'm going to say the young doctor. I'm going to say the young make-believe doctor, the smart make-believe doctor. And then I'm going to do one for the patient. his sick patient, his sick patient's temperature. Those are my three. It could go to either the doctor or the patient or however you want it to go. So one way you could you could go ahead and rewrite a sentence with more details is by using describing words. Another way you can add more details to a sentence is using conjunctions. Using a conjunction. Go ahead and write the word conjunction. A conjunction is a word that connects. So it's like and, but, if. These are all conjunctions. They can connect two ideas, right? So I could expand my sentence using describing words, but I could also expand my sentence using a conjunction. Let me give you an example. I'm going to use and. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature and made sure she was resting. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature and then went out to lunch. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature and gave her some medicine. That would be a conjunction, right? Or let me give you a few with but. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature, but it turns out she was fine. The make-believe doctor took his patient's temperature, but realized that the thermometer was broken. Okay, so those are some examples. So I want you now to rewrite this sentence with more details. You don't have to write this. I'm just writing this so you remember. More details. Don't make it super long, right? More details. You could do more details by either adding a describing word or two, or adding a conjunction. I wouldn't do both because then this sentence would seem super long, which would make it super boring. All right, so go ahead and write your sentence and let's see how you do. Okay, you should have already written your sentence. Go ahead now that you've written your sentence and share it with someone in your group or with your whole group, or just read it out loud if you're by yourself. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write mine. Okay, so mine is the young, I like that word young. I feel I've been using it a lot. The young make-believe doctor. I'm going to just go ahead with the describing words. The young make-believe doctor took his sick patient's temperature. This is mine. Yours might look like mine, but I'd rather it look like yours. Okay, I'd rather it be different. This is mine. The young make-believe doctor took his sick patient's temperature. Okay, so you're going to go ahead. We only have one page here that you have to turn in. Go ahead, take your page, upload it onto Google Classroom or however your teacher wants you to do it. See you next time. Bye-bye.